supposed to be an action. Some of you have asked, why aren't we holding signs? Why aren't we passing out flyers explaining? We don't want to do an action right now. All we want to do is meet in a Jewish community space and celebrate Shavuot, which is the Jewish holiday of study, and talk about boycott, divestment, and sanctions from Israel, which is one of the most controversial and really one of the most important issues facing the Jewish community today, and facing any communities that care about what happens in Israel and Palestine, whether you support it or oppose it. Go and Learn is a national project to try to bring conversations about boycott, divestment, and sanctions, the Palestinian nonviolent movement for equality and justice, into Jewish spaces. And in a lot of ways, Jews in mainstream communities don't have an opportunity to have really honest discussion about it because this discussion is so repressed and feared. So we really wanted to have an open conversation in a place that would make Jewish people and their allies feel comfortable. And we thought that having that in a Jewish community space with a history in the New York Jewish community was important. So the 14th Street Y is a prominent Jewish institution here in the East Village in Manhattan. We were really excited when they allowed us to make a reservation there. At 8 p.m. on a Friday night, moving into a 3-day Hag, Shabbat and then Shavuot, I get a call on the cell phone of the executive director of the 14th Street Y. And he says he has just gotten out of a staff meeting where the staff of the Y unanimously decided to cancel our event. The reason for this was fear that the volume of attendees would be beyond their capacity to control. Of course, today that was proved wrong when we had a little over 30 people, which was our expected number. The room we had reserved held 75, and we tried to have somebody from the Y come out and talk with us.
We have a contract for a room today, and we want to make sure that we're allowed in, or if we're not going to be allowed in, for somebody who's in charge to tell us why we're not being allowed in.
Could you hold on one second, please?
Sure.
Their concern about capacity was clearly flawed. However, they refused to come out and speak with us. They refused to let us in.
They won't be making a statement at this time. That's what I was told to tell you.
He asked me this, can the group go inside to the room that they contracted for?
I'm sorry, I don't think that's going to be possible. Unless they tell me that I'm responsible for security here.
Well, if we try and walk in there to go to our meeting, will you stop us?
We're here for
that. Okay.
This really isn't the way I want our Jewish communities to be operating. I think it's great when a bunch of young Jews want to organize a discussion about something that's important in their community. I'm upset because this is a Jewish text about two rabbis who famously disagree over and over again. And yet, these are also two rabbis whose, even though their traditions disagreed so much, they would still eat each other's food. They would still accept each other's marriages as valid. They would still stay in community with each other and continue to wrestle out their issues in community. And so we've recorded their dissenting opinions so that we can continue to wrestle with their issues in community. And for me, that's a value of being Jewish that's very important to me. And so I'm sad that we aren't being given the space to wrestle out our issues in community with each other.
What happened at the Y is a very formal kind of censorship. We had signed a contract to have this event. There was no vetting of what the content of our event would be in the process. However, they felt it was necessary to break their contract with us because they were that frightened of us sitting around in a room and talking and eating blintzes and giving any legitimacy to Palestinian-led movements. This is real censorship. This is saying you may not talk about that in this space, no matter what, under any conditions.
Even though we were still able to have the event, it was in a park. We started an hour late because of all the delays we had at the Y. It was noisy and hard to hear people. People were uncomfortable. We didn't really get to do the event that we planned. And I was really encouraged and delighted to see that people are so enthusiastic about this that not only were they willing to relocate to a park for a shortened, condensed version, but they also kept telling us that they want us to hold this event somewhere else so we can do the full one, so we can have another 2-hour conversation about BDS and continue to go into these ideas we only got to brought up. So I'm really excited about that. I'm hoping some other Jewish institution will want to host that conversation, because obviously there's a real hunger and desire for it.
I think today we had people who were unsure of how they felt, and we had people who were very sure, and we had people who were against, but we were all able to come together and have a discussion about it, and that was the whole point.